What's better than one Monday Night Football game to close out Week 7? How about a double dip, people? We got the Ravens and the Bucs, and then the Cardinals and the Chargers. Lamar Jackson making a very impressive case for a third MVP. We'll tell you might want to jump all over that right now while you can. And will this finally be the breakout game for the Chargers offense? We'll break it down. It's the pregame power-up, and it starts. I'm not wearing a watch, but it starts now. Raymond James Stadium hosts our first game tonight between the Ravens and the Bucs. The Baker air attack takes on Lamar's ground game, and bettors are expecting points in this one, and that would be a wise thing to consider. We're going to break everything down for you, both games throughout this entire hour of power on the pregame power-up, and glad you're with us on the DK Network. And back in studio with Claudia Bellafato as we get set to break down both these games. Marshall Newhouse, former offensive lineman, will join us. Emerson Lazio, with the flavor that only the Emerson can bring us, will also join us as well. But we got to really look at the lines moving, interestingly, in front of both of these games, Claudia.
I'm surprised you came back. You're not still partying out there in New York City.
The chain smokers are still reverberating through my chest. It's a whole different story. I had to hang out with celebrities. I'm sorry.
Oh, God. Well, he's back. And yes, we have a good doubleheader tonight. Bit of movement on this Ravens-Bucs game. Not so much in Chargers-Cardinals. Ravens opened the 5-point favorite, got bet down to as much as 3.5. So that Bucs money came in, settling around where you're seeing it now at 4. Bucs, though, 9-3 ATS as dogs. We'll talk about Baker in this spot as well. Over the last 12, Chargers, this could be the spot, Trey. This could be the spot where we see a lot more Justin Herbert, maybe a little bit less of the run game, because they're facing a Cardinals defense that is one of the worst against the pass, second worst pass rush. However, injury is a huge concern for both squads, but mainly for the Chargers. Quentin Johnson is doubtful. You have Ladd McConkey, who's questionable. Those are your top 2 receivers, of course. Joey Bosa is still up there with the hip. He's doubtful, huge for that pass rush, and he's been out since September 22. So although they have all of these injuries, not much movement for this game, Chargers-Cardinals.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, as we like to say off the top of every show, we're presented by Campbell's Chunky. It is soup that eats like a meal. And Claudia, you mentioned moving. So far this season, nobody has been moving the way Lamar Jackson and that Ravens rushing game has been moving. Lamar Jackson, the reigning MVP, is off to a spectacular start to this season. He's off to one of the best starts in his career, quarterbacking the NFL's #1 offense. He'll try to do something tonight that he's never done, and that would be 3 consecutive 300-yard passing games. Of course, he's still doing it with his legs. He passed Cam Newton for the second most rushing yards by a quarterback in NFL history last week. And he just needs a paltry 449 to pass Michael Vick for the most all-time. Now, he's not going to get that many tonight. Let's just be clear about that. But he could be moving much closer, because Mondays have been very, very good to Jackson. With him under center, the Ravens overall on Monday night are a phenomenal 5-2, 17 total touchdowns and no interceptions, averaging 82 yards on the ground. But the best thing about this for Lamar is the offseason pickup of Derrick Henry. He hasn't had to run as much because they've got the hammer in King Henry carrying the load. But when Lamar does run, he's been incredibly efficient. One prop to look at for tonight: the Ravens QB is 8 for his last 9, going over his longest rush prop, and it's set at 16.5 to be the longest rush tonight. So for more on this game and what we expect out of both teams, including the spectacular start by Lamar Jackson, let's go to the man, the myth. Florida man is back in Florida. Emerson Lazio is with us. Emerson, what should we expect tonight as we get set for these 2 dynamic offenses?
Well, you can expect less sun when the game kicks off, but right now I can't confirm. The Sunshine State is indeed very sunny. You guys talked a lot about Lamar Jackson. It's been the #1 jersey I've seen out here today. In fact, there's a guy right there wearing a Lamar Jackson jersey, waiting in line at the porta potty. And and Lamar Jackson, by the way here, guys, if you look at his numbers through 6 weeks now, they're either just where they were or better than those previous 2 MVP seasons, okay? But Lamar's not thinking about that. Lamar is thinking about the road ahead. February, there's a big game that's played in February. I think it's the Super Bowl. So right now, he's damn good at clearing the mechanism. Roll the tape.
I'm not finna dwell on an MVP trophy or anything like that. I never have, even when I won it. I never dwelled on it. It was about me just trying to win each and every game I'm in. And same thing from now. I'm still trying to win these games to get to February and win in February.
He's that guy that kind of epitomizes what we're talking about there. He's always seeking to improve. He's very much a perfectionist. He wants every play to be perfect. He chases perfection in his football. So I'd say yeah, but I think his focus is on the next play, the next game.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson trying to win his 3rd MVP. He's near the top of the odds boards on DraftKings Sportsbook right now. He'd be the youngest player to ever do that if he does bring home another MVP. Still kind of weird to me that Patrick Mahomes at the top of that list, despite leading the league in interceptions. It appears our friend in the Lamar Jackson jersey is still inside the porta potty as we speak. But there's another man on this football field tonight who leads the league in touchdowns right now. That's Baker Mayfield, guys. But tonight is more than about the stats for him and Buccaneers fans. These people are incredible down here. They've been through so much. This community has been wrecked by multiple hurricanes over the past 5-6 weeks. So I talked to a lot of people around these tailgates here outside Raymond James Stadium. And we're going to bring you some of that sound coming up later in this show because they're using the Bucs, they're using football. They are a community again, and for just a brief moment of time, they will be able to distract their mind from the devastation they have suffered over the past few weeks. Trey?
Yeah, Emerson, thanks very much. We'll get back to that a little later. As for the guy wearing the Lamar Jackson at the porta potty, he must also be clearing the mechanism. Emerson, thanks very much. We appreciate that. We'll check back with you in just a bit. But this is really fascinating. Lamar is not the only player on the field with hardware. You have 4 Heisman winners in action tonight. In fact, 4 straight winners, from Henry in 2015 to Lamar in 2016 to Baker in 2017 and to Kyler Murray in 2018. Murray and Mayfield both going #1 overall in consecutive years out of Oklahoma. Lamar selected in the same draft as Baker, going 31 picks later. But Claudia, we've got plenty of connections in these 2 games tonight, don't we?
Oh, yeah, like brothers, maybe, coaching in Monday Night Football games where they have been electric. Big surprise. They love the bright lights here. And I also have to say, that's really wrong to expose that man when he's going to the bathroom, okay? Let's not do that anymore. But the Harbaugh Bros, for first in trend, as you can see, have been dominant. 15-4 straight up on a Monday night, going back to 2011. Jim, 6-0 straight up and 5-1 ATS, and overall this squad. And by the squad, I mean these brothers, 19-7 straight up and 18-8 ATS as head coaches. Who's got it better than them? Nobody. Let's talk about this Chargers defense, though. By the numbers, they have been one of the best in the league, the best scoring defense at 13.2 points allowed per game. The Chargers, the only team this season to allow 20 or fewer points each week, and no starting quarterback has had a passer rating of over 100 against them. Although they have several notable players in the unit, they are led by a veteran who Harbaugh calls the team's most valuable player.
If there's a early MVP candidate for the Los Angeles Chargers, I mean, it became Mac. Would be right at the top of the list. I think it's so cool. He created his 31st caused fumble of his career. In the time he's been in the league, since he's been in the league, nobody's created more fumbles than Khalil Mack has. No one has caused more fumbles than Khalil Mack. But his ability, and he had some great rushes in the game as well. But he's doing it all. He's doing it all against the run, against the pass. Early candidate for whatever accolades that anybody who really knows football would bestow. I mean, he's deserving of them.
Well, there's Coach with some stats. How about this? We'll go next gen on Mac. He has generated a team-high 20 pressures this season, including a season-high 6 pressures on 32 pass rushes in Week 6 against the Broncos. His 20 pressures, 9 more than the next closest Charger, Morgan Fox. And you look back to last season, it looks like he's just following what his brother did, leading the best defense in the NFL.
Well, what I love about that sound from Harbaugh is he made sure we got the message that Khalil Mack has caused more fumbles than anybody. Or to use Harbaugh parlance, who has more fumble caused than Khalil Mack? Nobody would be the way to go. And listen, this is kind of a big game because if they win tonight, they stay within shouting distance of the Chiefs. But if they lose, everybody in that division already have 3 losses, and the Chiefs, as we know, have absolutely none, and the last unbeaten team. We'll get into that and how crazy that is just a little bit later. For more on this, let's bring in VSiN's Stormy Buonantony from the Las Vegas trading floor. Stormy, let's talk for a minute about Lamar Jackson. Like, he is putting it together another MVP season. We saw that somehow, remarkably, the respect for Mahomes is still there. They're tied at the top with the best odds. What are you looking at prop-wise when you see the MVP market for Lamar right now?
Yeah, as you go through this market, it's funny. This morning I was like, okay, finally, Patrick Mahomes isn't the standalone favorite anymore. He went from plus 360 to now that co-favorite with Lamar Jackson at plus 450. But still, the fact that he's up there is wild, considering the fact that he's 16th in the NFL in pass yards. Emerson told you he's tied for the league lead in interceptions to just 6 touchdowns. Yet here we are because his team is undefeated. And you think from a sportsbook liability standpoint, the thought process of, okay, if this offense starts getting a little bit healthier or they go out and get a wide receiver at the trade deadline and keep winning, then they know that they're still going to get a bunch of Patrick Mahomes bets. I like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen as some of the short shots, rightfully so. One of the biggest moves, though, this past week was Jared Goff coming off the Lions' win over the Minnesota Vikings. He went from 18-1 to just 6-1 now as the 4th shortest shot. And selfishly, as somebody who has a preseason 35-1 on Jared Goff, I would really love to see that come to fruition. But think about it, it does make a lot of sense with the Lions now kind of the leader in the clubhouse in the NFC. If they ultimately end up continuing to win games, being the top seed, Jared Goff's going to have a really good shot at this thing.
I mean, he really is, Stormy. Just so people understand, since the NFL merger of 1970, here's the entire list of quarterbacks that have had a 4-game run with 80% completion percentage and 140 passer rating. Jared Goff. That's the end of the list. Claudia.
Yeah, and they have Dan Campbell. So, Stormy, like you, I have Coach of the Year ticket. I'm feeling pretty good for both of us. Looking at tonight's doubleheader, the second game expected to be a bit closer between the Chargers and the Cardinals. What are bettors liking tonight, though, in both games?
They're liking these road favorites, and you can understand why, considering how profitable it's been over the course of the last couple weeks. The last 3 weeks, to be exact, going into Sunday Night Football yesterday when the Jets messed up the streak, it was road favorites going 15-0 straight up and against the spread. And so bettors buying back into that thought process tonight with a couple of these teams in the Ravens and Chargers. But we're also seeing that sharp action on the other side for these games, too. The Ravens game opened around some places at a 5 or a 4.5, got down to 3.5, and we did see that buyback, as you referenced, sitting at the cool 4 now. But for the Chargers, saw sharp action there too, going down from a 2.5-point favorite to 1. I did take the Chargers on the money line in this spot, just taking a little bit more juice, minus 115 for them to win it clean. And while I didn't have involvement in the Bucs tonight, you guys know me well enough now that I love a same-game teaser, and I'm going back to the well from that standpoint too. So instead of taking the Bucs plus the 4, I'm 6-point teasing it up from the 4 to 10 and taking the total down to 44 and going over, because I do think that's a game that we're going to get a good bit of scoring, but I like my wiggle room. What can I say?
The Jets messing things up. Go figure. We mentioned some prop bets earlier. We talked about Lamar's longest run being 16.5. Real quickly here, what are some other prop bets that you're seeing coming in that people like tonight?
Well, people do like Lamar Jackson, rushing touchdowns, rushing yards, all of that good stuff. But the big one that I noticed was Derrick Henry. They are all over King Henry to get in the end zone in basically any respective form. First touchdown, anytime touchdown, even laying the minus 220 to have 2+ touchdowns at plus 236. He's had 9 through 6 games this season, at least 1 in every single game, and the bettors are going back to the well with the King.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. He leads the league in rushing attempts, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. So, yeah, that would seem to be a pretty decent play for a lot of people. All right, Stormy, thanks. We appreciate it. We'll see how it all plays out in the doubleheader of Monday Night Football here in the Pregame PowerUp. Coming up, we're putting into perspective just how good this Ravens rushing attack has been. But don't sleep on the Bucs ground game either. We are off and running with a double dip of Monday Night Football to get to on the DraftKings Pregame PowerUp. Pregame PowerUp is presented by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal. Welcome back to Pregame PowerUp, presented by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal. Look, what Baltimore is doing on the ground is just flat out ridiculous. They're running over everyone. They lead the NFL in rushing yards per game. The Ravens have had 150 rushing yards and 1 rushing touchdown in each of their first 6 games in 2024. No team has ever done that in each of their first 7 games of a season in the Super Bowl era, and they've outrushed their first 6 opponents by 100 yards. No one's ever done that in NFL history either. This is a very statistical way of saying they really are good at running the football. How much are they outrunning their opponents? Well, first of all, I just want you to look at the graphics and look at the years of the teams we're talking about. We're talking about the Ravens in 2024, 146 yards more per game on the ground. Then look at the years that we're dealing with here. Better than the 1942 Bears, the 1936 Lions, the 1973 Rams, and the 1934 Lions. Look, nobody is doing this anymore this way except for the Baltimore Ravens. This will be the largest rush differential ever in a single season in NFL history if it holds up, and it looks like it's holding up. But to paraphrase Judge Schmales from Caddyshack, the Bucs are no slouches themselves when it comes to rushing the ball. And it's kind of difficult to figure out because they're, in many ways, like the Patriots of the middle 2010s. You never know who's really going to get the ball. Is it Rex Burkhead? Is it Dion Lewis? Is it James White? No one knows. And they've sort of been mixing it up. Now, up until recently, one Bucs running back, Sean Tucker, has been more well known for his tweets. After every game, he does this. I'm pleased with my performance. Hashtag Tampa Strong. I love the fact that he's not saying, hey, I did great, I ran well. He's very genteel. He's pleased with his performance. And his performance, by the way, has been picking up over the last couple of weeks. In week 6 against the Saints, Tucker had 17 touches and 192 scrimmage yards. He was pleased. The third most by any player in a game this season. He also found the end zone twice. Before last week, he had 20 touches and 53 scrimmage yards in his entire career. He was pleased with that, but he was more pleased with what he did the last time. And take a look at the best rushing offenses over the last 3 weeks. Number 1, the Ravens. Number 2, the Bucs. Again, things get complicated tonight, though, with Rachaad White back in the mix, but offensive coordinator Liam Cohen says the plan is we're riding the hot hand.
This is a long season. We're going to need all 3 of those guys to really carry us for the rest of the season. So all guys are going to play. They're going to get his, reps, and at the end of the day, whoever's given us the best opportunity to win throughout that game will probably get the majority of the carries. And you guys know that the running back position, as we've already seen, is pretty volatile. Those guys take probably some of the more vicious hits than anybody. So long year, need all 3 of them to be at their best in order for us to, continue that running success.
Well, again, here's a look at how the Bucs see that running game going tonight. And the book doesn't know what to do with these 3 running backs either. Only Rachaad White yards and attempts are posted right now, and they are low, well below his season averages. You can get Bucky Irving and or Sean Tucker to score a touchdown this season. Bucky actually the favorite at plus 145 to take out of those 3 backs. Okay, for more on what the Bucs are doing on the ground, let's bring in the big man who clears the way for a lot of these running backs and did so for a lot of years. NFL offensive lineman Marshall Newhouse. But before he was an offensive lineman, he went to TCU. So may I just say to you, Marshall the Stock, riff, ram, bazoo, lickety-lick, zoo, hoo, wah, wah, hoo, give them hell, TCU. And that has been the situation for both these teams on the ground, and especially Lamar Jackson. Is this the best version you've seen of Lamar so far?
Yeah, I mean, that is our chant. That is nonsensical, but in terms of Lamar, I love it. Go Frogs. This is the best version. So listen, the Lamar that started off in the league, that made the playoffs in his first seasons, was a one-dimensional quarterback. He was figuring things out, but he was dynamic. You could tell he was dynamic. This Lamar Jackson has rounded all those edges off. He is a complete quarterback. So you said, in certain times later in the season, teams would blitz him. He was very poor against the blitz. He now is 4th in the league in yards passing against the blitz. He does more things in the line of scrimmage. Before, you wouldn't say that he was changing plays, getting guys in the right situation. Now he has full control at the line of scrimmage. He has turned into a complete quarterback and a complete weapon who, oh, by the way, has Derrick Henry in the backfield, and when things break down, can still beat you with electricity with his feet.
I was going to say adding Derrick Henry certainly helps him become a better quarterback and not so one-dimensional. And of course, they are the top rushing attack in the league. The Bucs' defensive unit has been pretty solid this season, around average, 12th in DVOA. But when it comes to defending their run, they're around bottom 10 in rush DVOA. How do you fix that specifically against this rush attack?
Well, it's nice getting Vita Vea back. It's like adding an extra truck to your arsenal. And then Antoine Winfield is a great tackler in the backfield. So I imagine those guys will make a big difference. I think they're going to try to load the box, but that comes with some caveats. The back end of their defense has not been great, so you leave yourself open to the play-action game over the top. The Ravens do have speed that can beat you deep, but I believe they'll at least start to try to load the box to get the Ravens in first and not as manageable, second and not as manageable situations, and then that shrinks their playbook a little bit. But then Todd Bowles, who's a big proponent of the blitz, they're going to blitz. They're going to be who they are. They might dial it back a little bit because of Lamar's success against the blitz. But again, when you blitz, and a lot of times you play man behind that blitz, you turn your back to the quarterback. So if you don't contain him from the edges, being disciplined in your rushes, Lamar is going to get loose. He's going to kill you there. So again, he's a dynamic quarterback, but the Bucs have multiple areas where they're going to start plugging holes with chewing gum the best they can, because ultimately this is an offense that is really, really tough to deal with.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about the blitz, because that is Todd Bowles' DNA. That's who he is. That's who he wants to be. But you just alluded to it. Lamar has been really surgical against the blitz, and we're looking at a different passing Lamar this year as he's trying to go 3 straight games with 300 passing yards for the first time in his career. Do you sort of have to go against your own design there to sort of try and slow things down?
Well, I don't think so, because, what you have to do is do a different version of what you do. And so that might mean simulated pressures. That might mean an edge pressure where guys are rushing, but they're keeping Lamar contained as best they can in the pocket. So I wouldn't necessarily shy away from it. He might have times where he checks the ball down, he makes a smart play, but if that prevents bigger chunk plays and that prevents him from sitting back in the pocket all day, then you do that. And then ultimately, if that gets them out of these obvious or the first and second downs where they can run or pass, throw a design scheme, play action to Mark Andrews or Nelson Aguilar or whoever over the top, you want to shrink the options as best you can, which is easier said than done.
When we look at these two rosters, and of course the market reflects this, making the Ravens a decent favorite here, the Bucs do have a lot of talent. We talked about sort of the three-headed monster, not a crazy, scary monster like Lamar and Derrick out of the backfield, but of course Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, both healthy, Baker looking awesome. That's one way they can maybe attack this Ravens defense that's allowing 16 explosive pass plays right now outside the numbers this season. That's the second most in the NFL. How do you expect that matchup to work out tonight? Do you expect maybe the Bucs to lean a bit more into the passing game?
Well, listen, the Bucs have a tremendous run game in their own right. And I think it would be unwise to just assume that you can pass all of the yards from the beginning. But Liam Cohen is a different thinking offensive coordinator. I mean, the old adage that you have to run to set up the pass doesn't apply to him and a lot of the newer, younger coordinators. A lot of them pass to set up the run. They trust Baker Mayfield. They paid him that money. He's playing exceptionally well, making really good decisions at the quarterback position. And if they can get protection, I see them passing early, not necessarily to pass it 40, 50 times a game, but to then open up the running lanes for a Bucky Irving, to then be the explosive back that he can be. Rashad White, maybe we might see him. And then, you still have Mike Evans in your back pocket as a safety blanket for Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, and if you keep running the ball successfully, you keep the ball away from Lamar Jackson and their ability to run the ball. So it's a double win for them
Absolutely.
if they can get that game going. Marshall, thanks. We'll check back with you a little bit later on in the program. Some other very interesting topics around the NFL to discuss, including the second game of our doubleheader tonight. But you talk about the Ravens and what they do. They win a lot. So do the Bucs. The Ravens and the Bucs are both top 5 in wins over the last 5 seasons. Only, not surprisingly, the Chiefs at 56, the Bills at 52, and the Packers at 47 have more wins over that time frame. Both these teams sitting at 4-2, coming off Week 6 wins. The Ravens on a 4-game winning streak after starting this season 0-2. Claudia.
And the Bucs might have some sort of edge tonight, of course, being at home where they are 2-1 this season. Back at Tampa tonight for the first time since September and for the first time since Hurricane Milton devastated the region. For more in the aftermath and hoping that football can bring back some joy, let's bring in Emerson Latia out there in Tampa. And Emerson, I'm sure it's a bittersweet situation for residents.
Looking good, y'all. Looking good. Yeah, as you can see, they're still in very good spirits here, Claudia. Yet 12 days ago, Hurricane Milton made landfall just south of Tampa as a Category 3 storm, and that came about a week or two after Hurricane Helene devastated the area. These people have been through hell and back over the last 5 weeks, and they're using tonight to rally around each other, come back together, and distract their mind from the devastation of those two storms.
Oh, it's been horrible. It's been absolutely horrible. Like where I live, the eye came through where I live, and I was sitting out back watching it come through, and then those back winds came in and just destroyed everything.
It's been rough. It's been rough. So there's a lot of people that don't have right now. So this is our first tailgate back since the storms have happened. So this is our first, I guess I'll say, try to get back at something normal and bring some smiles to everybody's faces. Hope that we're going to have a good time out here and some people will come out. But I know there's a lot of people that have lost everything.
Can you describe to me just what tonight means to the people of this region?
It means all of us coming together. Yes. It's been a rough 2 weeks, a month, like you said. And it feels good to get out and get a little bit of normalcy because we all need that right now.
It means a lot to the fans, just if the ones that are lucky enough to go to the game, just to be away from all that, and the ones that get lucky enough to be able to watch it on TV today, to get their minds away off of this horrible nightmare we've been through.
It's a great thing to have our team back in town, playing at home, and our fans. We're all family, so we get to hang out with each other and forget about all the madness for a little bit.
You got to get their minds off of the bad that's happening and try to bring some normal.
Feels like these players care just as much about you guys as you do about them.
They do. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Baker, everybody, Evans, everybody's stepping
Chris
up.
Godwin's all about the pets and the helping children, and he's like my favorite right now. I just love him because he's balling out. So, I mean, bet on him because he's a winner. But they all do something different within the community, which is awesome.
To see that camaraderie, to see the love coming back that we give them, it's huge, because they all are a part of this city, and nobody, outside of this city, they don't realize how much they're loved here. So to get that back is awesome.
What do you think a win tonight would mean for the people of this region, the good people of Tampa?
Oh, that would mean so much to them to have something positive like that. And knowing that our players are really playing for the crew.
We need it. The entire city needs it. And I think it would uplift everybody.
Tampa strong. Yeah. We're Tampa strong.
Tampa strong, isn't that right?
Tampa strong, absolutely.
It would be huge for the city to get a win and, give something to the fans to cheer and rally around, while they try to get back on track.
It'll be just the happiest vibe. It'll be, they did it for the Bay Area, and it'll be just a great thing because it'll take minds off. People will have their minds taken off of everything because the team won, so they'll be all jubilant because of that, and it'll carry over to the next day.
The people around here, Buccaneers fans, residents of this entire region, they're special. They are warriors. They have been battling for weeks, picking up the pieces of their life. I grew up in Florida. I know the battle, what it's like to go up against hurricanes. It's not fun. One day you can have everything, and then hours later, it is all gone. And the Buccaneers, they know the pain that their fans have been going through. They've been very active in the community over the past week. Last Wednesday, they were on their off day. They were handing out meals to those who were impacted by Hurricane Milton. They know Baker Mayfield, every player on that field tonight, they know that tonight is more than just about football, and a win could go a long way in helping this community heal emotionally after suffering so much pain from those two devastating hurricanes, guys.
Yeah, you love to hear that Tampa strong. Of course, we can't call it a silver lining when it comes to tragedy, but good to see some smiling faces and some sunshine out there. Emerson Lazio, we appreciate you. And that is true. We've seen this with a lot. Boston strong, Vegas strong, all very different situations, but that one silver lining is the team's rallying behind it.
Well, look, all of us that work in this business do it because we love it and it's fun and interesting. But the power of sport is real and palpable in situations like this. Absolutely. You can get a community to rally around something and just give them something to feel good about for a while. Just go back to the Saints' first Monday night game against the Falcons after Hurricane Katrina. The Superdome was just it was just electric, and that's the things that can happen.
Yeah, gives you goosebumps just thinking about it. When we come back, Kyler Murray is trying to get his offense back on track against the NFL's best defense. Why it might be now or never for the Cardinals QB.
Pregame Power Up is presented by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal. Back with you on the pregame power-up presented by Campbell's Chunky. It is soup that eats like a meal. A great defense and a run-heavy offense has led the Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert to a career low in passing yards per game, but a career best in passer rating. His 6-to-1 touchdown interception ratio is also the best through the 6 games in his career. And Herbert did break out a bit last week with a season-high 34 attempts and 237 passing yards in their win over Denver. But again, the key word is win there. As you can see, this offense is all about the ground game. Of course, you figured it kind of had to be when they gave away all his wide receivers in the offseason. They ranked top 10 in rushing yards and attempts per game, 30th in passing yards, and dead last in attempts. But Justin Herbert is not concerned with his numbers. He's enjoying watching that defense and finding ways to win.
Well, yeah, it's been fun to watch. You know, we're not surprised at all by the success they've been having because we saw it during camp, we saw it during OTAs. But for them to be able to force those turnovers, those big stops, it only helps us as an offense. And, you know, that's where the complementary football word comes in. And we got to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our defense off the field, to be able to go down, convert on third down, and make sure that we're doing everything we can when they give us those opportunities in good field position to take advantage of those.
And let's be clear, Justin Herbert's hair remains elite. And that is something you cannot move around. If they want to throw the ball tonight, though, they'll have time to do it. The Cardinals defense has the 4th lowest pressure rate through 6 weeks this season, according to Next Gen Stats. They're the only team in the league without a defender that's recorded double-digit pressures. They've also allowed 103 passer rating to opposing quarterbacks in 2024. In case you're wondering, that is 27th, otherwise known as 5th worst in the league. So you'd think that this passing attack, Claudia, would adjust a little bit and maybe try and take advantage of that situation. But then again, you mentioned off the top so many injuries. Not only the receivers they got rid of before the season began, but the ones they had aren't playing.
Yeah, and your top 2 guys questionable tonight. I just think as a player for Justin Herbert to come in the league and sort of light it on fire like he did when Tom Brady was still playing back in 2022. He was second behind Brady in attempts. He had an even better completion percentage than Brady. We started comparing the two, talking about him being an MVP. So you just have to think he probably saw it coming when they took away all of his pieces. But what does that really do to the mind of a player? If they do eventually get back to a more of a passing game, can he go back to what he was before? Just 1 in 5 to the over on his completions this season, and 1 in 5 to the over on his passing yard. So that all makes sense because they haven't been pass heavy. But I just wonder what that's like for a player.
Well, it's a total shift, and actually we're going to talk about it with another quarterback in the same division of him with Marshall Newhouse a little bit later. But there's also another quarterback in this game that's got a lot of eyeballs on him. Yeah. And Kyler Murray does have his weapons. They're healthy. Marvin Harrison Jr. particularly. Trying to get this offense back on track, though. They scored 28 or more points in the first 2 games. Now they're averaging just 16 points per game since. Individually, Murray has had a solid season, passer rating of 98.8. It would be the second best mark of his career going back to his 2021 season. But one thing he's still trying to figure out is that connection with his rookie receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. Murray's only completing 45% of his passes when targeting him this season. It's the 3rd lowest completion percentage by a quarterback-receiver duo in the NFL. Harrison will play tonight after clearing concussion protocol, so Kyler will have his full complement of weapons. However, the numbers for Kyler may be ready to take a dip, and not for a reason you would think. For more, we bring in Emerson Latzia.
All right, guys, I'm here outside of GameStop right now, not to buy anything because it's closed. I'm here because producers told me to be here, and in just a few days, the new Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is going to drop, which means so will Kyler Murray's play on the field. Days of making fun of the compact quarterback's height or his little baby legs are gone. A couple seasons ago, Kyler signed a $230 million contract, and inside said contract was an independent study clause, saying he needed to study independently, raising eyebrows and catapulting questions about his commitment to football. So it turns out his focus was on the sticks, just not the first down sticks. Every autumn when a new Call of Duty game is released, Kyler Murray's stats noticeably drop. According to Reddit user Negative B, who was a realist, 2 seasons ago, Murray's numbers were down across the board on double XP weekends. So in non-gaming terms, during these promotional events when players can earn double the points, his passer rating, yards, completion percentage, and win-loss record all took hits. Kyler's love for the game, the video game, was blasted by critics, with meme accounts across the world taking vicious aim at the Arizona signal caller. Coming up short between the hash marks, however, not on the battlefield. His bank account is locked and loaded, and Murray was quick to thank his hostile haters for the playful payday, tweeting, "To the trolls who memed me into a bag, thanks. I'm officially launching my Call of Duty partnership." Cardinals fans would rather see Kyler launching Arizona to the playoffs, something he hasn't done in 4 years. And with the new COD invading basements around the world this Friday, the Cardinals cavalry is once again hoping that Kyler remains more focused on avoiding losses inside State Farm Stadium than on the battlefield in Lowtown.
You know, Claudia, when that contract was signed, I texted someone in the Cardinals front office and said, "What's up with this?" And the text I got back was, "Trust, but verify." They knew it was a problem.
Oh.
They knew it was a problem.
Dude's a gamer, just in the wrong way. Big J journalism. Honestly, the numbers show this, though. There's no arguing the numbers before and after the release of the latest version of the game. Everything does seem to dip the further he gets into the season, but we'll let you draw your own conclusions on that one for some more stats actually pertaining to the legitness of this game when it comes to the handle, when it comes to the bets. Everything, sharps and the public on the Chargers to cover. Lots of over money coming in, 81% of the bets as well on the Baltimore and Tampa game. And then as far as some props go, Chris Godwin, 50+ receiving yards, the most bet player prop in that game. Trey McBride, tight end for the Cardinals, over 5.5 receiving yards, most bet player prop in that game, which I am on, so I don't love to see that because that means I'm on a public play, but that's okay. Let's see what else the public likes. We'll bring in Captain Book for that.
10 days from Halloween, and the Bucs been passing out plenty of candy this week, as public action has been cashing like crazy. So will it be trick or treat tonight for the captain and his crew? The Hard Boys have answers. Johnny tapped Tempo Todd Monken to retool the Ravens offense last season, and it led to Action Jackson nabbing his second MVP. Results hit the skids to start 24, but Baltimore's back on course, and bettors are back in the crab cake kids again. Big. So it's going to take another raw dog upset from Baker and the boys to set the captain straight. Chargers captain Justin Herbert squares off against the Cards tonight, and his new offense arrived when John ended Greg Roman's reign with the Ravens, giving Jimbo the chance to bring that same look to LA. Herb's season stats may seem scary, but he's on his 4th coach in 4 years while his main squeeze has never changed. Finally, LA's leading man has a legit director. So the captain's calling on Kyler tonight to ante up for duty, and if Murray drops the ball, it's going to cap a big week for the betting public. Our last bang bang till week 15. Let's go, baby!
I've decided I think I'm going as Captain Book for Halloween.
The crab cake boys.
Yeah.
I like that one.
I just cover my face so nobody can see me.
Yeah,
That's the
talking that
simplicity of that costume. All right, for more on this game, let's bring back Marshall Newhouse, longtime NFL offensive lineman, and of course, as we knew last time, big proponent of the ludicrous TCU chant. Let's talk about Justin Herbert here for a minute, because it's an evolution, right? Like, Justin has been one of those guys slinging it all over the field, and now Jim comes in, and Jim likes to run the rock, and that's their strength with the changeover in that receiving core. How difficult is that, in your experience, for a quarterback to manage?
Listen, I don't think Justin Herbert's the type of quarterback with the ego where that would be difficult to manage. He seems like a more soft-spoken guy, someone who doesn't, balk at that. And I think at a chance at success, he will jump at it. And so what this does is it removes the pressure for him to drop back and just blindly pick apart a defense 30, 40 times a game. He gets to rely on a run game. He's now relying on a very, very stout defense. And so as a quarterback, that can only make you happy. You lose a few weapons on the outside, but you gain the lack of pressure, and you gain the lack of the need to go win everything all the time, and you have a more balanced attack. And I think he's kind of maturing into this role. And then he's still taking shots. We've seen some of these amazing feather touch throws. He's still got the arm, all the talent's there, but he gets to pick and choose his moments and then make more impact.
So a different look offense, but it is working for the Chargers. As far as the Cardinals go, I mentioned it earlier, looked real good in those first 2 weeks, lacking with some consistency, particularly with Marvin Harrison Jr. in that passing game. What is the key to scoring against this team and this top-rated defense of the Chargers?
Well, if you're the Cardinals, listen, they can move the ball. They're moving the ball in between the 20s pretty decisively. It's when they get to the red zone where things kind of bog down. And Marvin Harrison Jr. being a target and being a consistent target allows them a chance to kind of combat this Chargers defense, which has been really getting after people this season. So with Coach Merritt on defense. And so if you're Kyler Murray, you've got to improve your decision making. I think a lot of the teams they've been playing have been really good offenses, and I think he's felt pressure to keep up with those offenses, but that shouldn't make your decision making go awry, and that shouldn't mean that you don't rely on James Conner and you don't rely on other weapons outside of your own talent, which we know he has plenty of.
All right, all that being said, where are you leaning in this game tonight, the second part of the Monday night doubleheader?
Listen, the Chargers are missing some weapons, but I still like Justin Herbert. I like the style they're playing with right now. To me, that style translates to deeper in the season and potentially playoffs. So give me the Chargers.
I want to look back to Week 7 a little bit, Marshall. Some big wins. I want to know, though, the most impressive win, and we could talk about the Chiefs probably all show that being one, of course, against the Niners. Patrick Mahomes not looking great. Packers got a win over the Texans, Lions over the Vikings, Russ back with the Steelers, big win over the Jets. What was the most impressive win for you this past weekend?
I'm impressed the most when teams, when things don't go perfectly and a team wins a decisive game in a division game, and that's the Lions. The Lions, they try to fake punt, which Dan Campbell's known to do. He likes to go for it on fourth down in many different ways. David Montgomery fumbled in a crucial moment in the game, and they turned Sam Darnold over, and they still won the game. And to me, that screams a team that is built to go all the way. That's a team that has suffered heartache last year in San Francisco, who I think just is on a mission. And they're led by a coach who really believes in them. They believe in him. And so to me, the Lions have had an impressive win. They're now, 6-1. I believe in them as much as any team in the league.
They have an identity, and they feed off their head coach. Speaking of a team that has an identity and feeds off their head coach, Claudia mentioned, let's talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the last unbeaten team in football. I like to think of them, Marshall, as the most perfect football team. They're not playing great, but they find ways to make winning plays. And, we talked about Patrick Mahomes. Oh, he's thrown only 6 touchdowns against 8 interceptions. First of all, I would argue neither of those interceptions in that game were his fault. One, the receiver fell down. The other one, his arm was hit. In fact, I think of the 5 interceptions in that game, only 1 was on the quarterback. That was the first throw by Brock Purdy. The point I'm making is Patrick Mahomes doesn't have the gaudy stats, but he still found ways to make winning plays, whether it was the 33-yard run down the sideline, the longest run of his career, trucking that young rookie cornerback going into the end zone for what was really the decisive win. And the Chiefs just do what is necessary. Kareem Hunt is an absolute sledgehammer for them. And on one of those touchdowns, Kelsey, who still doesn't have a touchdown, he doesn't care. He set the block on the edge. The Chiefs are like a bunch of Mariano Rivera's. They just know how to get the bleep done.
Yeah, listen, when you're coming off back-to-back Super Bowl wins and you have a team that can win in the way that they do, and they kind of just don't care what it looks like. I think that's what's confusing people, is that for the years of building up to this, that they can call them a dynasty, it was exciting. We had Tyreek Hill over the top, Travis Kelce and Mahomes playing backyard football, a defense that wasn't so good, but a team that was more exciting. This team, by all accounts, is kind of boring compared to what we're used to. And yeah, Pat Mahomes is not blowing us out of the water, but he knows that he has a defense that he can lean on. He has a run game he can lean on. He has an offensive line who's playing pretty dang well. And so my time with Tom Brady and New England Patriots was short, but what I did realize watching him over the years was there were times when the Patriots defense was the best in the league. Yeah. And Tom Brady, we know him to be the greatest of all time, didn't have to be Superman until it counted, until they needed it. And if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, their entire league should just be shaking because they're looking just pedestrian at times, and they're winning while the San Francisco 49ers, which we thought were their contemporary, seem to be falling apart at the seams. And so, yeah, it doesn't look good. There aren't gaudy stats. Pat Mahomes is trucking guys. He's running down the sidelines. It looks different, but they're still winning. They're doing the things in the margins that are needed to be done.
They're the last unbeaten team, and they're doing what is necessary. I hate it when people say we have an identity. No, do what you need to do to win the game. Marshall, thanks. We appreciate it. Mike Evans is on milestone watch tonight, but do bettors like him to find the end zone? We'll take a look next on the Pregame PowerUp. Pregame Power Up is presented by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal.
Trey and Claudia back with you on the Pregame Power Up, and we're joined by some cats who look like they're partying.
Yes, that's it. They're having
The
more fun
lights,
than we
the
are.
balloons. Let's see what they like for a first touchdown.
This is our football feline.
What is this party? Is it somebody's birthday?
It's always a party.
Cat's
with next
birthday?
gen Cats.
Chris
Godwin!
11
Plus
to 1.
100. Plus
I like
100.
that.
All right.
That's
I like
pretty
that.
good. Thank you, Next Gen Cat. Welcome back to Pregame Power Up, presented by Campbell's Chunky, soup that eats like a meal. Mike Evans looking for receiving touchdown number 100 tonight. He'd become the 11th player and 9th wide receiver in NFL history to reach that mark. He scored a touchdown in 7 of the Bucs' last 8 Monday regular season games. His 5 scores this year are tied for the second most in the league, behind Jamar Chase, who has 6. Let's look at the most bet touchdown scores for tonight at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Mike Evans certainly up there, plus 125, though, looking like good value. J.K. Dobbins with that big run game that the Chargers have, no surprise, minus 120. Derrick Henry, though, most bet anytime touchdown. Who is drinking that juice, people? Minus 215? You're laying 215 to win 100? You're all crazy. For more on how the people are betting tonight, here's DKN social media correspondent Megan Townsley.
Another Monday night doubleheader, and after the chaos and good games we saw yesterday in Week 7, I don't think Monday night's going to be any different. So I took a look at the DraftKings Sportsbook betting groups to see what our bettors are picking for tonight. So let's take it to the Barstool betting group, where Tommy Smokes is parlaying a Derrick Henry anytime touchdown with a James Conner anytime touchdown, and I love that so much. Let's get it, because Derrick Henry has been an absolute monster this season, and also James Conner does not get the recognition he deserves. deserve. So loving both those picks, but let's take it to the DK Network betting group where our own Blake Crass, he's siding with the Bucs on this one. He's taking the Buccaneers to cover plus 3.5 versus the Ravens tonight. This one scares me a little bit because the Ravens are on a roll recently, but then I remembered that the Bucs dropped a 50 burger over the Saints last week. So anything could happen in these matchups. And if you want to get in on the action too, go ahead and open up the DraftKings Sportsbook, then click on the social tab at the top, and then you'll be able to find these betting groups. And in these 4 groups, there's a lot of people going with same game parlay extras and dipping into both of these matchups, but just makes sense because we're not going to see another Monday Night Football doubleheader until December. So go check out these groups before the games kick off tonight because you want to make sure you don't miss out on all the good stuff going on in here.
You don't. Real quickly, we talked about milestones and also and what's going on with Mike Evans. By the way, maybe the most underrated, underappreciated receiver in NFL history when you look at how consistent he's been since his rookie year. Derrick Henry has a rushing touchdown in every game for the Baltimore Ravens so far this season. If he scores a rushing touchdown tonight, it would be his 7th straight game with a rushing touchdown.
Jeez.
The last guy to do that, you want to take a guess how long it's been? 7 straight? Yeah. Emmitt Smith.
Okay.
Emmitt Smith,
A while.
1994. Last guy to score first 7 games of a season, technically.
Yeah.
First 7 games of a season. That's what we're talking about. I think we can all argue that the Ravens' offensive line is not as good as arguably the greatest offensive line in the history of the NFL and what we've seen in the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I wasn't born then, so I'll be born to see this one. And if it happens, Trey.
You got to say things like that. You got to say things like that. It just my world is shook now. My world is shook. And we got to give Baker Mayfield a lot of credit. 17 total touchdowns he's accounted for. That's the second most in Tampa Bay history. The only player with more over the first few games of the season is Tom Brady in 2020. That's what we're looking at here.
If you are looking for a prop for Baker, I think passing touchdowns is a play, but also over on attempts. Completion's safe too, but the Ravens game script has a lot to do with this. When teams are playing from behind, they're going to throw it more. But obviously this offense trusts Baker with his arm too, so I'd look at completions. I would look at attempts for him. I think game script will bode well. And this team too, just in general, I mean, the emotion behind it, of course, we talked about with the Hurricane, but the Bucs have just been good as underdogs. 9-3 ATS over their last 12, 15-7 with Baker there as a dog. So as long as they can limit the mistakes tonight and stop that, rush attack, they could win this.
Yeah, and again, you want to talk about a consistent and a good sort of data impulse. Since 2018, Lamar Jackson, the year he was drafted, Tampa Bay is the 2nd best team in the league against the spread. That is a pretty good data size to call them up. So enjoy another double dip of Monday Night Football for Claudia Bellafato, Emerson Lazia, Marshall Newhouse, Stormy Bonatoni, and everybody else. Thank you for watching the Pregame Power Up on the DraftKings Network.